Mattoon here from my Rewire. I am driving actually across the Colorado mountains back towards Utah right now, so got a little bit bored, so I thought I would talk to you about the subconscious mind. I am driving, so those of you who don't like that, don't watch this video. It's also raining out, which is really cool. It's very beautiful here. So I'm probably going to not look at the camera too much, but I am going to talk to you about what the subconscious mind is and how it works and what I notice with clients. I want to give you a little bit more information. So the subconscious mind itself is kind of a piece of a whole, right? Because there's a conscious mind and there's a subconscious mind. And it takes both, like you have both. It's not one or the other. The way it's talked about, a lot of times you'll see this diagram, and I've used the same thing, the diagram of an iceberg. So the top part of the iceberg that's above the ocean that's exposed is your conscious mind. It's the idea of your conscious mind. The part beneath the ocean, beneath the surface of the water, is considered, or the idea of your subconscious mind. So below the level of consciousness, right, that whole idea, you've all heard this before, I'm sure. And what happens below the level of the subconscious is things that happen automatically. So it includes things like heartbeat, like breath, like hormones and chemicals in your system, things that just happen automatically. There's a lot of function that happens in that quote-unquote subconscious area. If you think about that idea for a second, one of the ways that they talk about it is that it's hidden from you. Now, if you understand how your mind works, and you think about that, if my subconscious mind is hidden from me, it means I can't get to it. Maybe I can't even find it, right? It's something maybe I have to search for. Literally in your brain, what happens the second you hear that is you automatically go looking for information about what you know about something being hidden from you. If your subconscious mind is hidden from you, that means you probably are going to have to find it. You're going to have to search for it. It's something that might be hard to get to depending on how you think about something being hidden from you. So that can make that really tough. Does that make sense? Because every time you hear a word, your brain will go looking for information about the word. It just does. That's how our brains work. So that's pretty interesting that we have information that our subconscious mind is hidden from us. Now here's the truth. If you go looking on maps of the brain, you will not find the subconscious mind listed or located on the brain map anywhere. Conscious mind either. It is actually a concept that psychiatrists or psychologists made up, years ago in order to be able to speak to this concept that we stored information. Your subconscious mind isn't even a real thing. Like much of this around us. It's not even real, right? It's an illusion. And it was used to be able to talk about it. Literally, that's why they came up with this concept, so that they could talk about these areas of the mind or these areas of the brain, because they didn't have enough data or information on it. They just didn't. So what we know now is that when you think a thought, every time you think a thought, you bring together a protein and a neuron. And inside your brain, you start to connect these proteins and neurons, and you start creating neuroplasticity. You start creating pathways inside your brain, and the ones that are wiring together are firing together. The more often you think the thought, the more often you're digging that loop, or you're creating that string of pathway, right? You're making that pathway bigger. The more often you think about it, the closer the synapses get together, the faster it fires. You get better at the thing, no matter what it is. And this is all actual function inside your brain. It's not theoretical. It's not a concept that somebody made up. We actually know this is how the brain works at this point. And so to keep talking about the subconscious mind and the fact that it's kind of like an iceberg underneath the ocean and you can't really see it or get to it is very, very misleading. And I think it's actually harming us more than it's helping us at this point. Just like many of the different theories and ideas that are out there. We were told it one way, and it turns out it's a whole different ballgame. And so you have to kind of throw out some of the information and just say, okay, I'm going to try and understand this a whole different way. The idea of it being like a computer is probably a little bit more accurate because it's programmable. When you have a computer and there's nothing on the computer, there's no information, there's nothing in the hardware or software, and I don't know a ton about computers. This would be a question for my older brother. When they program that, there's a language to it, right? You have to know the language, you have to be able to put it in a certain order, stick it in there, however that works. And then the computer does whatever it knows how to do. Whatever you just put in there, it knows how to do the information you just gave it. That's basically, like really super basically, how a computer works. If you want to change the programming, what do? You don't just stick more programming on top of it. You need to go in and take out some of the old stuff, and then you put in some new stuff. You don't just write new programming and stick it on top of the old stuff and hope that it kind of melds together and does its thing. Although I believe that's what it seems like we're doing, because if you have last year's version of Word and you stick this year's version of Word on your computer, you don't have to actually go in and remove the old Word. You just put the new one in there and your computer does the rest. But to think that it's actually just like melding it all together, and I could be totally wrong about this, right? This is just my understanding. It's better to go in and take out the old stuff and put in the new stuff so you don't have a lot of lingering junk, right? Which is what happens to a lot of our computers, because we don't do that. We leave the old programming in there and you end up with a lot of lingering junk. And unfortunately, sometimes I think we'd rather have the old programming in that tense than the new stuff because it just works better. But with your brain, it's totally different. And a lot of protocols, a lot of ideas about rewiring the subconscious mind say that you can just take a new affirmation or a new idea or a new thought or a new belief and stick it into your subconscious mind, and it's going to start to break apart the old programming, which is awesome. That's very cool. So in some people, that works really well that way. You come up with your thought, you have your affirmation, use a protocol, do the thing, stick it into your subconscious mind, wake up tomorrow and you feel like a totally different person. It's amazing how easy and quick it is. If we're using the concept of a whole brain state and using that to open up the subconscious theoretical door so we can stick new information in, some people get a great result. Now, other people, not so much. And my question is always, why? What happened? It doesn't work 100% of the time. What I've noticed with people with super high trauma or ongoing trauma, things that are continually happening, it's a continual situation that just hasn't rectified, or even with people that had trauma from a really super young age. So even, that idea of 0 to 7 is when your brain is like a sponge and it's just open to all kinds of information, which is what putting yourself into a whole brain state does for you, is it turns your brain back into a sponge so we can input and take out information, right? We can play around in there a little bit. From a really young age, if you have a super huge insult, that's nailed in there so deeply, it's so wired into your system that it's really hard to just take a beautiful affirmation and stick it on top of that crap and expect it to do something. And I've seen this over and over and over with people, even with things like Psych-k, with some of the stuff that, right now is pretty popular and huge in kind of the stream of things, is that idea is just wonderful, and it's backed by some pretty big names in the industry. And so people think it's like the perfect answer. But I get all kinds of people coming to me saying, I tried Psych-k, it felt good for 2 or 3 days, it's like anything else, and after a couple of days I went right back to what I was doing before. Everything came back. And then the question is, okay, why did that happen? What happened that, you felt good and then all of a sudden it went away, that good feeling left you? So Sorry this is moving around so much. So what we want to understand, what you need to understand, is that you can change the programming for a small period of time. If you don't get underneath the original insult, or you don't get underneath the original incident, whatever that thing was, and you're just giving yourself a good bump of chemicals for the meantime, which is what a good affirmation will do to you. It'll just give you a nice rush of good chemicals. Even in the Psych-k protocol, when they open up that theoretical subconscious door, if they don't get all the way underneath the issue, it's just like laying cotton candy on top of a pile of shit. Excuse my language, but that's what happens. And so people come to me saying, well, it felt good for a minute and now it doesn't. I don't understand what happened. Here's the deal. You have to practice this just like you do anything else. Practice, practice, practice. Because if you're not practicing something, you're practicing something. Believe me, you're practicing whether you think you are or not. And so we change out something in the subconscious mind, and you think, okay, well, now it's in my subconscious mind. But what you've really done is you've started growing a pathway for it. You've started actually putting together neurons and protein inside your brain, and it's starting to grow that pathway, which is really super cool. But you can't expect that that's just going to be there and stick, right? There's a little bit more to it than that. And so you have to go practice the thing in your life. You have to go out and do it and make it stick and make it happen. Or you have to keep redoing the protocol itself to get that to hold on in there. So one of the things that I work on doing with people is teaching them how to practice. How do you practice the thing that you want to see in your life? How do you practice a better feeling? How do you practice your affirmations? Do you only just say them, or do you ever practice them? It's an interesting question. And so what I would want to teach you is how to practice that. How do you create a feeling inside your body to go along with whatever it is you're thinking or saying or wanting? Because they go together. They're not separate pieces. It's all part of the whole. And when you get all of this stuff working the right direction and doing what it's supposed to inside your body, that whole idea that you have everything inside of you, it's all right there for you, is really true. It is. It's all about how you use your physiology. And once you understand that part of it and you know how to use it, it's yours to use. We just weren't taught how to use it. And I say that all the time. We were taught wrong. We weren't taught how. We weren't given correct information. When you hear that your subconscious mind is hidden from view, literally your brain goes searching for information about something being hidden. And if your subconscious mind is hidden, that means you have to go find it. And if you have to go find it, that means there's work to go do. And there's a little bit of work to do anyway, but it's way easier if you understand it like programming, that you just need to unplug and plug something new into the space. It involves thought. It involves feeling. It's not one or the other. It's both. And when you put both together and you submit that to the theoretical subconscious mind, when you start growing neural pathways to your new thought and your new feeling, you're actually creating that habit. With the subconscious door open, the theoretical subconscious door, it happens faster, right? So the idea that something has to take 30 to 60 days to turn into a habit is also incorrect. Because if you put yourself into a space of high alpha, of theta, or even if you can get into gamma, it's way faster. If you have a huge tragedy or an incident or something that really jars your system, you can replace those pathways pretty darn quickly. And it sucks that it has to happen that way, but that is how it seems to happen. And so here's what I would tell you. Understand a whole brain state. Understand how it works. If you don't, go looking for a couple of my videos, or go Google whole brain state. There's all kinds of videos from all kinds of people. You'll get all kinds of information. And then practice it. Practice sitting in that whole brain state. Practice. I think I lost my connection. I guess I didn't. Practice being in that state. Practice being in that mindset, right? Practice being in that place. When you can do that, you're going to start to see things change way more rapidly. Your mind, your brain, your subconscious, your conscious, whatever word you use for it, are all different parts and pieces of the same whole. They're not separate, they're together. They function together, they work together. If you're stuck or locked out of it, or it's hidden from you, let's go find it, let's go unlock it, let's bring it back into your sight, bring it into your vision, so you can use the computer, so you can use the machine the way it was meant to be used. Because I guarantee you, once you understand it and you get it, you're going to just be like, oh. And I have so many people tell me that. We'll go through a little thing where I show them how I do what I do, and most people just sit there and go, oh, I can feel that. People with high PTSD and saying they've tried everything. You got to back the truck up. You can't just throw an awesome affirmation on top of somebody's PTSD and expect it to do something. Most people that I have come into my world that are looking for help have tried everything. And when they get to me, they're like pretty much at the end of their rope. They've lost all hope. And so what we do is we calm the system down first. We bring it down, and it's pretty quickly, once you get into the subconscious, you can calm it down really fast. People ask me all the time, do I have to tap? No, we're not tapping on anything. We're not tapping. We're not doing hypnosis. This is all about you, and all about you understanding your system so that you can work inside yourself to get the job done. Your subconscious mind is a concept. It's not hidden. It's the neuroplastic, it's the neural pathways inside your brain. Your brain is a different thing. It's the physical matter inside your head than the idea of your mind. Your mind is something that they say is outside of us, right? It's somewhere where we get aha ideas from. It's kind of the idea of the spirit, which is interesting. And you'll hear different people talk about that different too. That when you understand all of these concepts and all these ideas, and that it's really part of your physiology, and now we have science to back it, all of it gets to start to change. And that's the deal with this. You have to understand it that way. It's not hidden. It's there for you to use and utilize. So go look up Whole Brain State. I've got videos on it. Like I said, there's videos all over the place on it. And just notice what happens if you sit in that place for very long. Now, I do want to tell you, I had a gal a couple weeks ago, got on a call with me, and she said she'd been watching a Psych-k video, and she was trying to do the protocol that Rob Williams had done in his video, and she didn't have all the information, and she knew that, and because she didn't have all the information of how to do it, she was scared to do it, but she did it anyway. And because she didn't know what she didn't know, and she thought that was scary, she inputted this scary feeling into her system and totally threw her whole system for a loop. And that's what we've been undoing for her, is what she did to herself by trying to do that by herself, which is interesting. Feeling matters. If you're feeling scared about something, don't throw a protocol on top of it. You're going to just put that into your system, and you don't want to do that. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. All right, I got to go because this rain's getting worse. Love you dearly. Thank you for being here. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Go check me out on Instagram. Love the Instagram. And I'll be talking to you again soon.